Good morning. Welcome, Water's Edge, to Church Online. I'm glad that you're tuning in with us again today. I hope that you are signing in and chatting with us and telling us how things are going. But we want to open up singing this morning. Over the next couple months, I've got some new music I want to share with you. So this song we are going to sing today is one of those new songs. It's called King of Glory. I hope you like it.
Nations bow, mountains shake at the sound of just one name. Over all, Jesus reigns. I know. Nations bow, mountains shake. One name over all, Jesus reigns. I know. There is a King of glory. There is a God who saves. One who is strong and mighty. Freedom is in his name. Open the gates of heaven. Lift up a shout of praise. There is a lion roaring. Jesus, the King of glory. There is a King of glory. There is a God who saves. One who is strong and mighty. Freedom is in his name. Open the gates of heaven. Lift up a shout of praise. There is a lion roaring. Jesus, the King of glory.
Hey there, Water's Edge. Tara here.
And Trevor.
We're sitting out, obviously, at night on our deck, and just wanted to wish you a happy 4th of July weekend. Hope that you're going to be able to be with some family or some friends and enjoy some time out in the sunshine and maybe some water. But I do have a couple of announcements as well for you. So Bridge the Gap Bridge the Gap is on and running Monday through Friday. You can pick up lunches for children any ages 0 to 18. So there's more information about that in the newsletter that goes out Thursdays or on Facebook, or you can always email me at tara@hdoedge.org. And then I also want to tell you about music in the parking lot.
Hot dog, music in the parking lot.
I'm so excited. We're going to do 4 different evenings. The first one is this Tuesday, which is July the 7th, right?
It is the
July
7th.
the 7th
Yes.
at 8 o'clock in the evening. Come to Waters Edge Church. You can either stay in your parked car and tune in on an FM radio station, or you can bring some lawn chairs and we can self-distance those 6 feet or whatever we need to do in the grassy sections if the weather's nice. But the worship team will be there, and we're going to be doing both Christian and non-Christian music, some Beatles.
Oh.
Some Beatles. So I hope that you can come. That'll be happening every 2 weeks through the summer. And I think that's everything that I have. So I hope you guys are having a great week, and we'll see you soon.
One helpful hint for all you outdoor eaters on the 4th of July. If you're having a mayonnaise-based salad, do not leave that in the direct sunlight. Keep it on ice or in a refrigerator. Very serious situation can arise
Yeah.
if you don't do that.
So bad. We don't want anyone with getting, food poisoning. No.
Very bad.
Okay. So be prepared, friends. See you later. Love ya.
Bye-bye.
All these pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty-handed but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Take my failure, you take our weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, Savior's blood. The beauty of heaven wrapped in my shame. The image of love upon death's reign. If having my heart was worth the pain, what joy could you see beyond the grave? If love found my soul worth dying for, how wonderful, how glorious, my Savior's scars, victorious, my chains are gone, my debt is paid, from death to life, and grace to grace. If heaven now owns that vacant tomb, how great is the hope that lives in you. The passion that tore through hell like a rose, the promise that rolled back death and its stone. Freedom is worth the life you raised. Where is my sin? Where is my shame? If love paid it all to have my heart, how wonderful, how glorious, my Savior's scars, victorious, my chains are gone, my debt is paid, from death to life, and grace to grace. And I see that cross. When I see that cross, I see freedom. When I see that grave, I see Jesus. And from death to life, I will sing your praise in the wonder of your grace. When I see that cross, I see freedom. When I see that grave, I see Jesus. And from death to life, I will sing your praise in the wonder of your grace. When I see that cross, I see freedom. When I see that grave, I see Jesus. And from death to life, I will sing your praise in the wonders of your grace. When I see that cross, I see freedom. When I see that grave, I see Jesus. From death to life, my debt is paid. From death to life, and grace to grace, to grace.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to Water's Edge Church Online. I'm so glad that you're here this morning because we are starting a brand new series called Moving Forward. And here's where I want to start today. I want to start with this feeling that I know pretty much everyone is having right now. The idea that we are all ready for things to get back to normal. But I think that there is also a thought that's going around right now, and you've probably had this thought as well, that as we've been going through this pandemic, that maybe we won't be able to go back to normal, or that it's going to be a very long time before we can achieve normal again. So you've probably started hearing about people talking about something else, something new, a new normal. And what I'm talking about is the place where we are all finding ourselves right now. This last week, I was reminded about it when I was setting up for a volunteer training session. We kicked off our Bridge the Gap program this last week, and on Tuesday morning, we had to train our volunteers, and so we hosted the training here at Water's Edge, and it was a really simple training. We just needed to convey some information to the volunteers, some things that they would need to know, and we needed to watch a couple of videos, and so I started setting up the comments for this event, and I had to place like 20 chairs spread out through the entire room. None of them were together. And what we would typically have is people would be able to easily talk to one another, and people would be able to get to know one another. But what we had to do was put the chairs over 6 feet apart so that we wouldn't spread this virus. I couldn't stand at the door and shake everybody's hand as they were coming in. Instead, I had to prop the doors open and put a table there with a big sign asking everyone to wear a mask and use hand sanitizer, please. And let me tell you, the training event itself, it went great. People were engaged, and we're excited to serve our community, but it just felt so different. It was possibly a new normal. Now, will it stay this way? Honestly, I hope not. But in this moment, I can't say for sure that this won't be what the future holds. Here's what else I know. I know that I'm not the only one feeling this, that the church is not the only place where we are being affected by what's going on in our world. We have people that we know and love that are afraid of leaving their house. We have people that we know and love that are struggling to make ends meet, that are in danger of losing their businesses. We know that the economy right now is not doing well, and we are hearing about a second wave of COVID-19 resurging in parts of the United States right now. More and more of us are starting to know people that have been infected or knowing people that are passing away from this terrible disease. Now, what I'm going to say next is going to sound weird, and for some people it may even sound harsh because of how difficult things are right now for them. But hear me out. This sermon series is entitled Moving Forward, because right now we have an opportunity. That's right. Right now, we have an opportunity. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, an opportunity for what? But there is a truth out there that only comes around so often, and that truth is this. When difficult times come, we have an opportunity to grow. When difficult times come, we have an opportunity to grow. Now, maybe this rubs you the wrong way, and trust me, I get that. What I'm talking about here is not something that comes naturally to any of us. When we go through hard times, we like to get through them and move on. Our natural inclination is to fight to get back to normal. Think about it this way. If you go swimming in Lake Michigan and you get caught in a riptide, you are in danger, and you are immediately in, by the very definition, a difficult time. And hopefully you've watched your training videos or read the signs or whatever, and you know what you need to do to get out of it. Or hopefully there is someone there that is there to help you get out of it. And so you swim with all you got and you get out. But where are you trying to get out to? Where are you trying to get to? Where are you trying to go? You are trying to get to safety. You are trying to get to land. And once you do, once you get to shore and you're breathing hard and you're tired and you're exhausted and the adrenaline starts to calm down a little bit, now you have a choice. You have a choice that you can go right back out and do it again, or you can learn from your experience. If you choose to learn from your experience, you will be smarter. You will be wiser. You arguably will be a better person for the experience that you just went through. Even though it was scary, even though as you are swimming and scared and you're fighting for your life, you're not happy to be in the situation, are you? No. Do you see this as an opportunity for growth as you're stuck in a riptide and swimming? No, but that doesn't mean it's not. That doesn't mean it's not an opportunity to learn. So, as we all are going through this pandemic, as we all are going through this time, if we are wise, we will pause for just a moment and ask ourselves the question, what have we learned going through this time? What have I learned going through this time? Then, as we are moving forward, what do we want to carry forward with us? And maybe even, what do we want to leave behind? So that is what I want to do for the next few weeks. I want to explore these questions because it's true that we have an opportunity right now, and it doesn't mean that we have to like where we are. And I do realize that there are some of us out there that are really, truly in the thick of it. And right now you would be happy just to break the surface and get a mouthful of air because it feels like you are drowning right where you are. And right now, it may feel like to you that there is no way that you can even think about improving yourself right now because you are so busy just dealing with where you are. But I want to push back on that just a little bit. And I know right now I may be a little on thin ice because I don't know your pain. I don't know how you and your family are getting through this. I don't know what may be happening in your life as you watch this. But here is what I do know. If we don't take the time to ask the questions, we won't learn from this situation. We won't learn from this new normal that we find ourselves in. And we will just try our hardest to go back to the way things were. And we become like that person that fought so hard to get out of the riptide, only to go and jump right back in and get right back in the riptide. And I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in that. I want to be better for my experience. And this is going to sound cheesy because it rhymes, but when we go through pain with no gain, and you know this, pain with no gain, it's a shame. There is a famous Christian author and apologist that wrote about this idea. His name was C.S. Lewis, and you may know him from the Chronicles of Narnia, but he wrote a lot of books, and one of the books is called The Problem with Pain. And I want to read you an excerpt from that book right now. C.S. Lewis wrote this. He said, "My own experience is something like this. I am progressing along the path of life in my ordinary, contentedly fallen and godless condition, absorbed in merry meeting with my friends for the morrow, or a bit of work that tickles my vanity today, a holiday or a new book, when suddenly a stab of abdominal pain that threatens serious disease, or a headline in the newspapers that threatens us all with destruction, sends this whole pack of cards tumbling down. At first I'm overwhelmed, and all my happiness looks like broken toys." And this might be you right now. You might feel like your whole world has come tumbling down in a mess. And you might feel like all those things that used to delight you have now been taken away. C.S. Lewis, he continues, he says, "Then slowly and reluctantly, bit by bit, I try to bring myself, after the bad things have come into play, I try to bring myself into the frame of mind that I should be in at all times. I remind myself that all these toys were never intended to possess my heart, that my true good is in another world, and my only real treasure is in Christ. And perhaps, by God's grace, I succeed. And for a day or two, I become a creature consciously dependent on God, a creature drawing its strength from the right sources." Doesn't that sound amazing? And so often, isn't it so true that we get into these times of difficulty, we get into these hard times, we hit rock bottom, and that's when we turn to God? That's when we rely on God? Listen, though, to what Lewis writes next. "But the moment the thread is withdrawn, my whole nature leaps back to the toys. I am even anxious, God forgive me, to banish from my mind the only thing that supported me under the threat, because it is now associated with the misery of those few days. Thus, the terrible necessity of tribulation is only too clear. God has had me but for 48 hours, and then only by the dint of taking... Thus, the terrible necessity of tribulation is only too clear. God has had me but for 48 hours, and then only by the dint of taking everything else away from me. Let him sheathe that sword for a moment, and I behave like a puppy." And those of you that have dogs, you know this is true. "And I behave like a puppy that when the hated bath is over, I shake myself dry as fast as I can, and I race off to reacquire my comfortable dirtiness. If not in the nearest manure heap, at least in the nearest flower bed." C.S. Lewis, he speaks to who we are. We, if left to our own desires, as soon as things are able to return to normal, we will return to normal. That is our natural state. That is what we naturally want to do. We don't like learning lessons. We like being comfortable. And that is why right now is an opportunity. We are already uncomfortable. We are already in a place where we can grow. But what it takes is a little self-examination. It takes asking some hard questions like this one. What have I been doing that has almost led to my undoing? Or the flip side of this question, what should I begin doing right now that I should have been doing all along? So right now, I want to ask you some questions about your own life. And the idea here is that I want to start this conversation with you. And as I start this discussion, I may or may not hit on a sore spot in your life. And if I do, it's going to be because it's going to feel like it's too soon to talk about this stuff. It may feel like I'm doing more meddling in your life than preaching, but I promise you that my intentions are good, because when the pressure is on, that is the time when we are able to change the most. And right now, the pressure is on. Right now, we are already uncomfortable. And so we can use this opportunity to move forward better than where we started. So if I do hit on a sore spot in your life, that may be a good thing, because maybe that's something that you need to focus on. And just to get it out of the way, I'm sorry if I hit a sore spot. If I don't hit on a sore spot, you can use this as kind of a template, this way of thinking to apply to your own situation. So we're going to discuss 3 potential areas of your life. So here's the first one, and each of them is going to be a question. So the first question is this: how can you be better for it? In other words, how can this situation be better, or how can you become better for what you've gone through financially? Now, there have been a lot of people that have been hit really hard financially throughout this whole crisis. People have lost jobs, businesses have been shut down, some people have been furloughed, others are having to navigate unemployment options. It's been a scary time. What many people are facing right now, though, are some hard truths about what they are wishing for right now was that they had made some different choices a long time ago. A lot of people are remembering bits of advice or wisdom coming from people like their parents or their financial advisors that they wish they had listened to a while back. There's one bit of advice that we probably have all heard, that right now, if you followed that bit of advice, it would make all the difference in the world. How many of you have heard this bit of wisdom? You should have 3 to 6 months of expenses in savings just in case of an emergency. Now, have you heard that? But let's get real. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody could have predicted that a pandemic was going to happen, and then protests and the news. But it's in times like this when people start to fall back on something that is talked about throughout the scriptures, throughout the Bible. It's times like this when the idea of wisdom and wise living, it really comes to providence. Because people who listened to wisdom, the people who put money back for a rainy day, I guarantee you, they are less scared right now. They are less freaked out right now. Why? Because they have some cushion. Now, there is a place to go and read in the Bible if you're looking for wisdom, and that is the book of Proverbs. And there's this proverb that I think summarizes how so many people have felt during this time. For those of you that don't know, Proverbs and the book of Proverbs and the Bible are ancient wisdom that are attributed to King Solomon of the Hebrew Bible. And there is a story where God tells Solomon that he will give Solomon anything he deserves. He'll give Solomon one thing. And he asks Solomon, what does he want? Does he want riches? Does he want, all these things? And Solomon asks for wisdom. And because he asked for wisdom, God also gives him wealth and power and all these amazing things. But the book of Proverbs is a collection of the wisdom of Solomon. And here, I want to read to you today what Proverbs 25:28 says. It says this: like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Now, this is kind of ancient language stuff, and we don't build cities with walls around them anymore. But in the time of Solomon, a wall was built around a city to protect that city. A wall meant security. A wall meant prosperity. And when someone wanted to come and take what was yours, if you had a wall, then you were more safe. They would have to have an army and siege weaponry to come and tear down your wall first, then get to to you. So what Solomon is telling us is that someone who lacks self-control is like a city whose walls have already been breached. There is no security. There is no safety. Now, we can apply this idea to our finances, because in the financial world, our safety net, our savings, our preparedness for emergencies is almost always tied directly with our self-control. And I understand the pandemic isn't something that you did. But if we really want to learn from this, we have to sometimes take a hard look at ourselves and think about what are the things that we have done in the past that have brought us to where we are now. And if we can take this time to maybe figure out how to move forward with some self-control, then especially when it comes to our budget and our future, we can make some choices today that can impact our tomorrow. You can make choices today that will make sure that you are never in this situation again. But it's going to take self-control. Next up, question number 2. How can you be better for it relationally? What have you experienced these last few months that you want to carry forward into the future? I think that one of the things that we've all experienced is the importance of friendship and the value of our friends. Being cooped up inside, we miss our friends. But on the negative side, this time may have been a really difficult time for you relationally. You might have had to quarantine by yourself. You might be like me and my wife, where we have found in quarantining with our kids that there has been some areas where we realize that we don't have the best relationship with our kids, at least to the level that we want to have. And so we are having to adjust as parents. We're having to relearn some things and to try some new things. You might be finding out that maybe your relationship with your partner isn't as strong as you thought. This time has caused you maybe to slow down and to really think about and consider where you are, and that may scare you. What this pandemic has done has put us into a new normal where many of us were not as busy as we once were. And so those things that maybe we pushed off to the side or avoided talking about because of how busy we were are right now right there in front of our face. This is a good time to pay attention to these problems, to these issues, to these cracks in our relationships. It's a great time to address these problems, to work through some of these issues. And let me tell you, it's probably not going to be pleasant. Hard work rarely is. And let me tell you, fixing a relationship, making a relationship better, it's hard work. By the way, before you start pointing fingers at the other person and saying, hey, this is you do this, you do that, you drive me crazy, let me just give you a piece of advice. Let me just give you a place to start. You need to start with your own piece of the conflict pie. What does that mean? It means that, remember, none of us are perfect, not even you. We all mess up. But now is a great time for us to look at these cracks that are in our relationships and work through them together. Here's the cool thing. If you do this, if you get this right, your story of COVID-19, and one day this will all be a story, won't it? One day we'll look back on this and we'll tell the stories of the great pandemic of 2020. But your story of this time might be COVID-19 saved my marriage. Or COVID-19 allowed me to reconnect with my son or my daughter or my mother or my father. Relationship problems don't just fix themselves. You have to address them. And one of the dangers of us not fixing them right now, of just going back to normal once this is all over, is that those problems in your relationships will still be there. And yes, right now, there is this pressure in your relationship, but this is something that you can use to work through your problems. You can use that pressure as a catalyst to take the time and heal your relationships. So, that's the second thing. The last thing, number 3. How can you be better for it personally? And when I say personally, what I mean is internally. Let me ask it this way. How is your worldview holding up right now? If you aren't familiar, your worldview is how you see and interpret the world. It's how you make sense of all that is going on. And it's highly possible, and even probably, that there are a lot of people out there right now that they have had their world shaken to the core. For some, it might be that their faith has been shaken. For some, it might not be, they might not be able to reconcile that there is a good God out there that would let something like this happen to them. And let me just tell you that the reason that so many people deal with this actually stems from an incorrect belief about who God is. That belief goes like this: if I follow God, then good things will happen to me. If you are a good person, then God or the universe or whatever will give you a good life. But this idea, it stems from this idea of God that's just not in the Bible. Next week, we're going to look at the story of a man in the Bible that, in spite of his circumstances, which, let me tell you, they were awful circumstances, this man continued to believe in God. He continued to live as if God was real to him. And what we will find is this: the promise of God is that God will be with us. Not that God will make our lives better. The promise of God is that God will be with us. God promises to be with us. Not that God, and the promise is not that God will make our lives better. If life was set up in such a way that the best people got only good things out of life, or that people who love the God the most got the most, our world would look very different, wouldn't it? The richest, most blessed people in the world would be some of the most humble and wonderful believers out there. But often that is just not the way it goes. You have godly people that are rich, and you have godly people that are poor. You have absolute jerks that are rich and absolute jerks that are poor. You have, godly people that suffer, and you have good and you have, bad people that suffer. And the biggest thing that should tell you that this isn't how God works is this: Jesus, who was God's own son, who God had a special relationship with out of everyone that's ever lived. Jesus, who was probably the only person that has ever lived that didn't deserve to be punished. It was Jesus who was crucified and killed and made to be a sacrifice for our sins. Jesus suffered to the point of death, and he was favored among all others to God. Think about that. If there was anyone that deserved good, it was Jesus. But what Jesus received was suffering and death. What God gives us is not an easy life, but instead God gives us presence, his presence in our lives. And next week we will come and see that there is power in that presence. There is power within you, but we have to choose to move forward. Will you pray with me? God, we come tonight. Well, we come this morning, and we have entered into a time that for so many of us is unique, for so many of us is difficult, for so many people. This is a time of strife and struggle and suffering. God, there are those of us that have lost friends. There are those of us that know people that are sick and hurting. God, we know people that are losing jobs. We know people that are trying really hard to make ends meet. We know a lot of people that are scared. And it sounds weird. But God, I pray right now that we could take this situation that we are in and we could begin moving forward through it. And not just to move forward to be done with this time, but God, that we would take the opportunity to grow right where we are, to grow, to use this time, this unique time to become better. God, to become more like you. God, help us to love. Help us to grow. Help us to follow Jesus' footsteps as we dive into this series, moving forward. It's in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit I pray today. Amen.
Okay. See, I get in my groove and I stop listening to her. I can't do that. I need your voice. All right, here we go. Ever be again. As we close up, I just want us to turn our attention back to God, just to where it should be as we go into our weeks. And just keep in mind that those that we come in contact with, we should be sharing that light of Jesus. And it all starts by us praising his name. So sing this with me.
Your love is devoted, like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon, with mercy for today. Faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledge yourself to me, and it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise
every secret,
every shame, every fear, every pain. Live inside the dark, but that's not who we are. We are the children of the day. So wake up, sleeper, lift your head. We were meant for more than this. Fight the battles, conquer death. Make the most of the time we have left. We are the light of the world. We are the city on a hill. We are the light of the world, and we gotta let the light shine. We are the light of the world. We are a city on a hill. We are the light of the world, and we gotta let the light shine. We are called to spread the news, to tell the world the simple truth. Jesus came to save. There's freedom in His name. So let us know, break through. We are the light of the world. We are a city on a hill. We are the light of the world. We gotta let the light shine. We are the light of the world. We are the city on a hill. We are the light of the world. And we gotta let the light shine. We are the light, we are the light, we are the light. So let your light shine brighter. We are the light, we are the light, we are the light. Jesus, you are the light, you are the light, you are the light. We will lift you high and shine, shine, shine. We are the light of the world. We are the city on a hill. We are the light of the world. We gotta let the light shine. We are the light of the world. We are the city on a hill. We are the light of the world. We gotta let the light shine. Let the light shine. Let the light shine. Let the light shine. Let the light shine.
Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. Enjoy the last couple hours of sunshine. We love you. God loves you. Have a great week.